All right, so now we're inside my 2005 Acura NSX, and let's do a full, I can't believe I've had this car 8 years. So Memorial Day will be 8 years. I got it roughly Memorial Day weekend of 2016. So I've had this particular car 8 years. And the first video I ever made of the channel, which I didn't really have a YouTube channel yet, but the first video I ever posted under the Glenn's Car Collection, Ferrari California in orange. First video I ever published was why I'm selling my NSX, and that got a lot of views, and that kind of led to me maybe doing a YouTube channel. But I had a black and tan 95 that I had for a good 4 years. So really I've had NSX ownership the last 12 years. So I believe I bought that NSX in either 2011 or 2012. So 12, 13 years straight of owning NSXs. So I think I could tell you the good, the bad, and everything about these cars. So let's talk about values first. My black on tan 1995 NSX, which is an NA1 with a 5-speed, not the 6-speed, and the smaller 3-liter engine, so a little less horsepower, 270 horsepower as opposed to 290 horsepower. I bought that car in 2011, 2012 for $31,000. And that's what they were worth. You know, the 02 to 05s were still only about 10 years old then. The lowest I ever saw the 02, 05 cars go was about $50,000 during those years. The time to buy an NSX, I was even a little late to the party, was 2009. The economy tanked in June of 2008. 2009 cars were on sale. Everybody was just trying to get rid of their car since they had lost so much money in the market. And you could get an NA1 NSX, so 91 through 96, for about $25,000. So when I paid $31,000, the cars had already gone up 20%. I'm like, oh wow, I'm paying $31,000, that's a lot. I remember a couple years, 2 years prior, they were only $25,000. That car I sold for almost $50,000 4 years later. So that's how much I would have doubled my money had I bought an 09. Had I bought that car for $25,000 and sold it for $50,000, obviously I doubled my money, but I almost doubled my money buying it for $31,000 and selling it for just under $50,000. Now this car at that time, 05, so the last year, whether it's a 2009 S2000, 2006 E46 M3, 2005 NSX, last year cars typically sell for the most money because the last year is usually a lower production and it's the final version of that car with all the updates. So collectors always like the last year. So an 05 NSX is definitely worth more than an 04 NSX. Even though they didn't make many in 04 either. So in 05 NSX, probably the low would have been around that time, 2009, probably in the 50,000 range, maybe a little higher because it was the last year. I don't know if they ever got down that low. But this car, brand new in 2005, was 93,000. And they weren't moving. The NSX had been out since 91. Probably people couldn't tell the difference with the updates with the bigger engine and the 6-speed manual. Now, if you had an automatic on the newer NA2 cars, you still had the smaller engine. They couldn't sell them, so they were discounting them. They actually had an $899 a month lease. So a good lease payment is 1% of the value of the car. So for example, if you had a $90,000 car and you were able to do a 1% lease, based on the value of the car, that 90,000, that would be 900 a month. So that's probably the cheapest. You know, the people that do lease hacks, that's what they always aim to do, get at 1%. So that was a real cheap lease for a $90,000 car in 2005, because 93,000, let me unplug this, $93,000 was a lot of money. So keep in mind too, with these cars, is you only have one plug. So I remember Car and Driver doing a review of a yellow, Spa Yellow, I believe it was Spa Yellow, NSX. It was either 99, 2000, 2001, somewhere there. So still had the flip headlights, but an NA2 car with the 6-speed and the 3.2 liter motor. And they said this interior is antiquated because you didn't have a second outlet to plug in your laptop. And now with the times, you know, executives who could afford this car is going to be going around the laptop. I don't care who you are. I don't think there's anybody that would need to plug in their laptop in their NSX. So it's kind of easy. You do have the outlet right here front and center, so you can put your radar detector. To charge in my phone, you can have the plug from your radar, or I just put an extender. This is actually what I use in the R8. It's a short light to plug in the radar. So the radar, no problem here. So as far as these cars go, $899 a month was cheap. So I believe this car was one of the $899 a month lease, because I'm the third owner and the first owner for had 2 years. So if I remember correctly from NSX history, it had an $899 a month lease for 24 months. I found this car out in Southern California when I still had my black NSX. My dream was to upgrade to an NA2, because at the time they were maybe $10,000 difference. Now I think it's a lot more, because they didn't make many NA2s compared to NA1s. The majority of NSXs, just like S2000s, are the first version, the AP1s for S2000, the NA1 for NSXs. So my dream was a blue 02 to 05, preferably an 05, because it was the last year, in this Long Beach Blue Pearl. In those 4 years, in North America, they only made 88 in this color, with either a tan interior like Rob Ferretti's car, and his is an 04, or a black interior like my 05. I didn't care, tan or black didn't make a difference to me. I had tan interior on my black car, so black or tan would be just fine. So I put an alert on Auto Trader if I would get a text. And then again, this was 2016, if a blue NSX ever came up for sale. I had been searching at that time, probably for about 7 years. So before even buying my black and tan NSX, I had been searching for a blue 2002 to 2005 NSX. And an 05, certainly, I don't remember ever coming up for sale. I think there's only maybe like 24 blue ones in 2005. So it's roughly 20 something a year over those 4 years. So sure enough, this is right after I bought the M2, so I still don't have a YouTube channel yet. I just bought the M2, which kind of was going to start my YouTube channel after I got that. And I get a text on my phone from Auto Trader, Southern California, blue 05 NSX. And forgetting there was a 3-hour time difference, I texted the person at 7 a.m. my time, 4 a.m. their time, and he responded yes. He goes, "You're first, the ad just hit, it's your car if you want it." So I had a PPI done out there, and you know, it cost me, I did enclosed shipping, since this was you know, a mint condition, low mileage car with like 20 something thousand miles. And I actually was able to negotiate the price. They were asking $65,000, and I said, you know, I got to do $3,000 in shipping, which is my problem, not your problem. What do you think of $60,000? And he accepted it. Supposedly, I never actually met him in person, but supposedly he was a wealthy individual, a lot of cars, and he was more concerned with who the next owner was going to be than getting every $1,000 out of the car. So I'm sure the price was very fair. You know, a low mileage 05, that's probably what they went for back then, about $65,000. So he didn't care about taking 60 if that was going to, you know, get him a good car. That's what was important to him. I didn't sell my black one until this was in my garage, because I wanted to make sure this car was in great shape before I gave away my black one, because my black one had 70,000 miles, but it was like mint. Perfect condition, original paint, the whole bit. So very simple layout. There's not much interior difference. The radio is crap, so any NSX you buy is going to have a terrible radio. So don't buy this for the sound. The antenna, since this car is so low to the ground, the antenna is like, 4 foot tall also. So it's almost embarrassing driving with that antenna. Now this car is very low. Unlike your M3, that's really made to be a 3 Series first, this car is obviously designed as a sports car, designed as an exotic car. So I forget how low to the ground this car actually is. So it can be a little, especially if you're taller or older, getting in and out of. The ride is very smooth, so I think this car appeals to all ages. Younger people who dreamed about this car when they were a kid, to older people in their 60s that just want a fun car to drive. So your significant other, unlike, say, most modified cars or sports cars you would drive, would probably prefer riding in this car because it's got a smooth ride and the handling is great. So one word to describe this car would be balance. I've had over 100 manual transmission cars, and this is my favorite by far because of balance. When this came out, it was probably a fast car at a 5-second flat 0 to 60 time for an NE2 car like this. I think Car and Driver even got the high 4s, and I'm not sure if that is, you could replicate that without doing a really clutch drop. The original NSXs were probably closer to 6 seconds, 5.7, nice Aston Martin DB11, with the smaller engine and the 5-speed. So the biggest thing with these cars, I would just get, if you want an NSX, get any NSX that you want, and any one is fine. I loved mine. If you could spring the extra money for an NE2, get it, because it's not just the 20 horsepower, it's the gearing. So the gearing is shorter, so you'll shift more, but the car accelerates much faster. It's 3/4 of a second, almost 1 second faster, 0 to 60 time. Maintenance costs. So for an exotic, it's relatively cheap. So it's a timing belt every 7 years. Most people go way beyond 7 years. When I first started looking at NSXs, there were people that had 20-year-old timing belts that were still driving them. So I think it's cheap insurance. It's about $2,500 to do the timing belt. Let me fix the mirror here. So you should definitely do it. This car is already on at least its 3rd timing belt. It's always had regular timing belt changes, which I think honestly is really cheap insurance for this car. The handling is fantastic. I could drive this car all day. It's smooth. The shifter's fantastic. It's almost good as the S2000. So maintenance on this car in the 8 years I've owned it is probably about $4,000. I've done the timing belt. I've done 2 sets of tires on the 2nd set of tires that we replaced due to age, not mileage. Just changing the fluids. The brakes last forever in these cars because they're relatively light. A coupe is probably about $29.90 the weight. And they're pretty much all Targa since '95. There were some special order coupes. There's the Zanardi edition. But this car is probably around 3,100 pounds. So it's very light where the brakes last a long time. It's hard to get tires for this car because there's not too many choices of tires available. I'll do a little highway acceleration for you. So it's a very reliable car. There are some issues in earlier cars, but by the time you get them now, they should all be sorted out. So really you want to check on timing belt. Obviously the age of the tires, people don't drive these cars that much, so they don't put a lot of miles on them, so they maybe have 10-year-old tires on the car, which is a big no-no. So it's still, at 5 seconds flat to 60, it's still as quick as every car you see here. I would say even quicker. It's very reliable. It's a Honda. So another thing, so in North America, Acura as a brand only exists in North America. So it's an Acura NSX in the US and Canada. Everywhere else, it's a Honda NSX. So you watch some YouTube channels and they say, well, there's two cars to choose from, the Acura version, the Honda version. That's not true. Acura only exists here, and that's why it's called Acura in the US and Canada and Honda everywhere else. It's the same exact car, just the badge is different. Car gets great gas mileage too. You probably get easily 30s on the highway. I probably average about 25, 26, even driving spiritedly. So when I drive Python Green, 911, GTS, 992, even when I drive on around town, like say I drive the R8, it eats a half a tank of gas because the V10, it gets 12 miles to the gallon. This car is the exact opposite. You're probably driving aggressively and you're still getting 25 miles to the gallon. The tires are relatively cheap. I think it's under $1,000 for a set of 4, but you may only have 2 brands to choose from. And they're basically track tires that are available for this car. So you do need heat, and you will need a lot of heat in the tires in a cold day, and you probably don't want to get caught in thunderstorms or standing water. This guy's just going to stop in the middle of the road on his test drive. Okay. There is some flex because of the target top. You could see, especially if I had the roof off, you'd see some flex and a little bit of rattles. Obviously, the more mileage, probably the more rattles. And values today, so this car with 43,000 miles in 05 is insured for $150. If this car had 10,000 miles, they've sold on Bring a Trailer for $250. If it had 100,000 miles, they would probably sell for about $90. So that's kind of, you know, an 80,000 mile 91 probably sells for about 80,000. Earlier cars are not as desirable as the later cars, but I would get any NSX you can afford. I think they're all worth it. So sometime you'll see like a real high mileage. I think a car just sold with like 250,000 miles and it still brought like 70 grand or something like that. But these are reliable cars. You can go on the NSX forum and there are hundreds of people that have cars that have 250,000 miles. I sold the black one to help pay for this because I had just bought the M2 a month before. So it was only a $10,000 upgrade because I bought this for $60, selling my other one for almost $50, and I got a car that was 10 years newer, last model year, my favorite color, and less than half the miles. Now that would probably never work today. There's probably a $50,000 difference between the two cars, but back then you could certainly pull that off. This morning was 35 degrees. 2 days from now, 48 hours, is going to be 84 degrees. So how does it go from 35 degrees to 84 degrees at the end of April? You'll be seeing this in May. But check out the channel. I have plenty of where I'm doing spirited 8,000 RPM drives. Won't be able to do that today with the traffic, but just want to let you know that is in the catalog. There's 1,000 videos on this channel now. I've reviewed over 1,100 cars, so browse the channel. If you're bored, type in your search box, Glenn's Car Collection, whatever car you want to see, 911 Turbo, NSX, M3, you name it, and I'm sure I've driven it. And I post one video full-length review every Monday at 7 a.m. Eastern time, and Tuesday through Friday I typically in the afternoon post YouTube shorts, so check out those videos as well. So I think the NSX is a great car, very expensive to get one now, but if you could pull it off, because I really think in 10 more years these will be $250,000 cars. So try to get your NSX now and hold on to it. It's definitely worth, you know, the $2,500 in timing belt every 7 years. Brakes are cheap, tires are cheap, and it's relatively, for an exotic car experience, very reliable, very cheap to run. Your significant other will love it, and I think they're only going to keep going up in value because it's hard to find a good, clean NSX. Thanks again for watching, guys. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.